Ladies and gentlemen, if you've been watching the NBA as long as I have, you know that there is a process we NBA fans like to go through at the beginning of every single season. And this process includes literally overreacting to every possible aspect of the game we possibly can. Towards the end of the season, we tend to pick up that we do this on a yearly basis, yet it still continues to happen. And believe me, it definitely happened this year. I can confidently say that. So with that, today I am going to be going through the top 5 biggest overreactions we saw through the first week or two of the NBA season this year. Before we actually get into this video, I'm going to save you guys the trouble right now and give you 5 seconds to go down below and subscribe. You guys are not going to regret doing this. I promise you that. We're coming out with brand new NBA content on a daily basis. While you're down there, don't forget to hit that push notification bell so you get notified every single time I post a new video here on the channel. And while you're at it, if you wouldn't mind, you can leave a like on the video as well. I appreciate you guys that do this for me. Thank you so much. But without further ado, let's get into the video. Now, the first overreaction I have for this video is definitely going to be an interesting one to go through. Basically, because the team this overreaction concerns basically just shut down any reason of this actually being an overreaction within the last 48 hours. And if you haven't caught on yet, the first overreaction involves us giving the Brooklyn Nets too much favoritism after just a handful of games into the NBA season. Not even a handful, I should say more so the first 2 games of the NBA season. Because if you guys do remember, the first 2 games of the NBA season for the Nets included them playing the Warriors on opening night, followed by the Celtics on Christmas Day. And in these 2 games, I'm not even gonna lie, they looked like the dominant powerhouse that we expected them to be in the Eastern Conference. Winning these games more than convincingly, taking down the Warriors by 26 points on opening night, along with beating the Celtics by 28 in Boston. And as you expected, the headlines over the course of the next week included nothing but high praise and the fact that this team was going to be better than any of us could have possibly expected. But as it usually happens, the overreactions became more and more noticeable as time went on, as the Brooklyn Nets went on to lose 4 of their next 5 games and now currently sit at a record just above 500 at the 6th seed in the Eastern Conference. Again, I know we are still very early into the season and their schedule has been very messed up due to safety protocol and the fact that Kyrie Irving has been MIA for the last week or so as I'm making this, but it definitely still classifies as an overreaction from us NBA fans. But yeah, as I said at the beginning, they're trading for James Harden 48 hours before I make this video kind of shuts down any aspect of this being an overreaction, I think. But I don't know, I guess we'll have to wait and see. Alright, getting into overreaction number 2, guys, this involves a team that I believe nobody was expecting to be in the situation that they are currently in, and it is the Toronto Raptors, who currently sit at a 3-8 record and 13th place in the Eastern Conference. Now, as soon as you saw this team get off to the rocky start they've had this season, you knew that overreactions were going to be flying from left to right. And this has definitely happened, as I have seen a lot of people say and mention that they believe that the Raptors will stay at the bottom of the Eastern Conference and truly not return to the level they have been playing at as an organization for the last 5 or 6 years, which I do believe is yet another major overreaction from us fans. And it is very obvious this rough start does have a lot to do with the fact that Pascal Siakam has not been playing up to the standard that we expected him to this year. And as I say with most of the overreactions we see at the beginning of every single NBA season, we simply just need to pump the brakes on this. This team has not changed their roster drastically by any means, and I personally don't feel like there's any reason to believe that they are going to stay at this level of 13th place in the Eastern Conference. I also really do feel like some of this rough start for the Toronto Raptors has to do with the fact that they are not even in their hometown. I'm obviously not making this point to exemplify home court advantage, however, I am making this point simply because they are always away from home 24/7, compared to every other team around the league that does have the luxury of living in what they usually do call home. Again, not using this as the main reason, just kind of pointing it out. This has been a rough start overall for the Toronto Raptors, but I really do feel like this is simply just an overreaction, and they are going to kick it back into high gear that we know them for very soon. Getting into our next overreaction of the video, this one is going to be centered around the Indiana Pacers big man Domantas Sabonis. Now, I personally love Domantas Sabonis as a player. He got his first All-Star appearance last year, which was well-deserved in my opinion. But within the Indiana Pacers' first 2 games of the season, we saw some very good numbers out of Domantas Sabonis, which included stat lines of 32, 13, and 5, followed by 22, 10, and 11, both in wins for the Pacers. And as you assumed, with Sabonis putting up 2 stat lines like this through the first 2 games of the season, overreactions started coming from everywhere on social media. And again, I'm not saying that Domantas Sabonis is a bad player by any means. I love DeMontis. And I'm not sure if you guys were seeing the same stuff I was, but I remember seeing some people mentioning and arguing that Domantas Sabonis might be the best big in the league. And at this point, when I was seeing posts like this, I was like, okay, we gotta chill out a little bit here. Again, he is a great young player, and he's been putting up pretty solid numbers throughout the course of the season so far, better than his averages from last year, actually. But what he did through 2 games, people were actually expecting or asking if he was going to be putting up those kind of averages throughout the course of the entire season. And again, these numbers are good, but they're not 30-point triple-double averages, if you get what I'm saying. But Sabonis is definitely doing what the Pacers need him to do, and he seems to be improving year by year, which you do love to see. And with our next overreaction, I feel like many of you saw this coming, and it involves the New York Knicks. I'm not even sure if this is an overreaction, honestly, more so the fact that everyone was just shocked in the way they started the season. Because if you guys did not see what happened with the Knicks, they started this NBA season 5-3, which included a 20-point victory over the Milwaukee Bucks. And at this point, everyone seemed to be in a stunned state, just asking themselves, alright, are the Knicks for real here, or are they just messing with us? And as most of you would expect, it seemed to be that the Knicks were messing with us. As since their 5-3 start, they have gone on to lose 4 straight games, 3 of them being by double digits. Again, it is still too early, I would say, to call this an overreaction. Maybe through the next week or 2, they can turn this around and actually get a winning record once again. But I will say myself, overall, if you've been watching any Knicks games, they do look a lot better than you would have expected out of the roster they've put together. One of the biggest players on this team that has really stepped up this year in terms of production is without a doubt Julius Randle, who is so far in the discussions of possibly making an All-NBA team this year, so far putting up averages of 23 points, 11 rebounds, and 7 assists a game. We can't get it twisted with the Knicks. These are some very solid numbers that Julius Randle has been putting up, and I'm really curious to see what he can lead this team to going forward. Hey, I mean, we even got Austin Rivers coming out in interviews saying that he's been on bad teams before, and this Knicks team is not one of them. So take that as you will, but let's just see how they do for the rest of the season. Getting into the final overreaction we have for today's video, this involves none other than Lamelo Ball himself. Now, I think it's safe to say that most of us knew, no matter what Lamelo Ball did throughout the beginning of this NBA season, that he was going to be either criticized or praised for it. There's no in between. Hell, this was even happening in the preseason, so you definitely knew once the regular season started, we were going to be hearing all about it no matter what he did. And as Lamelo Ball took on the spotlight for his first ever NBA game against the Cleveland Cavaliers, he put up a stat line of 0 points, 1 rebound, 3 assists on 0 for 5 shooting throughout the entire game. And as you could expect from NBA Twitter, through one game, Lamelo Ball was basically labeled a bust. And don't get me wrong, his first game did look very bad, but the overreactions we were getting on Twitter were flat out ridiculous. Because ever since this horrendous opening night game, Lamelo Ball has been putting up some very solid numbers, which includes an average of 12 points, 7 rebounds, and 6 assists per game throughout the course of the season so far. I've never seen more early reactions put on a player than rookies coming into the league with all of the spotlights on them. And yeah, with Lamelo Ball, the overreactions started on a very bad note, but I'm really happy to see he's turned it around very quickly and became a solid piece for this young and prosperous Charlotte Hornets team. Still don't know how he's not a starter, but we're not going to get into that. Guys, I'm really hoping you did enjoy the video today. Please let me know as well in the comments below what other overreactions I missed around the league in this video. I definitely know there's been more than 5 overreactions so far this season throughout the league, so if I missed one, let me hear it. But once again, guys, like and subscribe to the channel to never miss another video, and on that note, I will see you guys in the next one.